What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. I am here with Peter Ariz. We are live at the Miami Hurricane Team Store. It is the Christmas spree. This is actually the 24th annual Christmas spree that Harry Rothwell has done, now doing it in the Miami Hurricane Team Store. Got a ton of local kids from the Police Athletic League. They're getting $95 in honor of the late, great Brian Pata. Get that $95, spend it here in the Miami Hurricane Team Store. Awesome event. This place is about to get overrun with kids. Hopefully we can finish the podcast before that because we got a ton of portal news to get to. I know the chats are already on fire with questions about what's happening in the portal. First, want to say what's up to our friends at Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. All right, P, we are live. We're trying to keep up because things are flying at the moment. Of course, the big news, I don't know what the big news of the day is, what's the biggest news, but to me, Isaiah Horton, Miami's second or third receiver, depending how you look at it, certainly a significant part of the number one offense in the country, has announced that he is entering the portal now. The wording of the text is a little unclear. He's basically saying that he's filed the paperwork necessary to enter the portal. I don't believe he is officially in the portal yet, but certainly flirting with it. It's been widely reported, and I can confirm Alabama's in the mix here with Isaiah Horton, but there's not a done deal that he is leaving the program. He was there at at the Hecht Athletic Center when I was there earlier today recording. So he's around, he's talking, but this is obviously not good news that one of your top players, returning players, is in the portal. This is the business of college football. Miami has the number one wide receiver in the portal by far, Eric Singleton, on campus. I also saw him when I was walking by there earlier today, completing an interview for Storm Sessions. So a lot of moving parts. Miami expects to have an elite receiving core next year, but there's a lot of moving parts, as you can see, with Horton entering. All I can report here is it's not done either way. It's not done that he's coming back, not done that he's leaving, but Miami remains in discussions with Horton and also with other top receivers, such as Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech, the number one portal receiver in the country, who is on campus as of about an hour ago. So that's the latest there, Pete.
Yeah, and when it comes to Horton, I don't expect this to be a drawn out saga necessarily. I think this could get wrapped up. I don't want to say within the next 24, 48 hours, but I think you mentioned Alabama already in the picture there. But from Miami's side, this is a guy they definitely want to keep, as you said, and someone who is very important to the offense this year. So this is not someone that I would expect for them to just say, all right, well, you're interested in Bama, you can go. Like, they're going to have these discussions, like you said, and they're having them. So hopefully for Miami's sake, that works out there. You mentioned Singleton. I'm going to pull up this tweet real quick from his time in Miami. He posted a picture. I don't know if I can find it. I guess I took it up. There's a picture of him in Miami, but a guy that everyone wants out of the portal, the top wide receiver in there, I would say.
Yeah, and folks are asking me, is this about money? Is this a money situation? Look, when you have the number one portal receiver in the country, somebody who was the number one overall portal player in the nation until John Mateer entered it from Washington State, which we'll talk about in a second, he is not going to come cheap. So if you're playing that game, obviously you have money to spend, but at the same time, it's a big roster. You got to balance things. So Miami is talking to a lot of folks, including their own players. This is just, unfortunately, the reality of college football here in 2024. It's free agency, and it in some ways is the Wild West. Of course, other players visiting. Keyshawn Silver on campus, a major target at defensive tackle, not the only target at defensive tackle, but the big defensive tackle from Kentucky visiting. Also, C.J. Daniels, wide receiver from LSU, also previously played for Liberty, on campus. So a lot of names here visiting. You got C.J. Daniels. You got that. There you go, Pete. Everybody's posting. Everybody's staying at the Ritz-Carlton in Coconut Grove, posting those pics. So a lot of action here in Miami, a lot of moving parts, but people are waiting for that first commit, which hasn't happened yet. So there's a lot of uneasy folks in Coral Gables. But another name, Zechariah Poyser, who is a safety from Jacksonville State, was here on Sunday. A lot of people consider him the best safety in the portal. An SEC staffer told 247 he's a All-America type player, certainly an SEC caliber safety and an ACC caliber safety. So Miami is pursuing him hard. There's a need at safety, and this is a major option. Originally from, I believe it's Wildwood, Florida. I got Wildwood, Florida, by the Villages, by Ocala. So that's where Miami's at. I got a question here from Canes for Life. From a fan standpoint, what can we do to help our Canes out? Pete already knows, but that's sign up for Canes Connection. That's Miami's official NIL collective.com, canesconnection.com/CIS. Get the full link in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're going to drop the link in here in the chat, but that's really what this is. We're talking about college football free agency. Miami's firmly in the game. Again, when you have guys like Singleton on campus, guys like Keyshawn Silver on campus, a former 5-star defensive tackle from Kentucky, these are big ticket items. So if people are worried about Miami's ability, Zachary Poyser, number one safety in the portal. If they're worried about where Miami's at here, you wouldn't be bringing guys like this on campus if you are not willing to play this game. But it's a two-way street. You got to worry about your own players, and you got to worry about other players as well. So it's a crazy time. A lot of questions about John Mateer from Washington State. Obviously, look, I'm hearing the same thing everybody else is hearing, that Oklahoma is the presumptive favorite because of all of his ties to Ben Arbuckle, the 29-year-old offensive coordinator who went from Washington State to Oklahoma. My personal opinion is that it'd be insane to go to a place with no wide receivers and one of the worst offensive lines in the country, second only to FSU as far as being a bad offensive line. But, it's not my career, and I do think Miami believes they're still in the game. It's not a done deal with the Miami Hurricanes and Mateer as far as, Miami's not in communication or expect that they're writing him off to Oklahoma. That is not the case. But I mean, there's a reason why every media report's saying that that Oklahoma's the favorite. I'm not going to push back on that. I think the longer it goes, the better for Miami, because I think Miami's clearly the better opportunity by any objective measures of offensive line, offensive production, competition. You going against the SEC with a poor offensive line is a recipe for disaster, but this guy's a really talented player. Obviously has a lot of confidence in the coordinator, and Dallas, Texas, only an hour plus away from Norman, Oklahoma. So these are some of the things you have to worry about there. Question about the cornerback position. You had O'Connor from Washington State on campus this weekend. He really liked his visit. I think Georgia and Miami are two teams standing out there. You had Emmanuel Carnsley from Arizona, big athletic corner. It leaves the number 7 defensive back on the portal, according to 247. Miami and Ole Miss battling there. 6'3" corner, redshirt freshman. Both him and Ethan O'Connor from Washington State are both tall, converted wide receiver, California kids that are redshirt freshmen with tools. So very similar players there. I think O'Connor's probably the more advanced player at the moment, the one from Washington State. But both those guys visiting. And again, you also, it was reported that Jordan Scruggs from South Alabama, nickel prospect, is discussing a visit. Gabby Rudio just reported that one. I think Miami needs a nickel quite badly, like pure nickel. I know they wanted to add one this year and they were unable to, but that would be something they look to add as well. Appreciate you, Canes for Life. There you got the link in the chat, so go ahead and sign up. Appreciate you supporting canesconnection.com/CIS. This is the modern football here. So that's, those are some of the updates. Again, CJ Daniels, we talked about Singleton. CJ Daniels is a guy Miami really likes, who had a huge season at at Liberty, transfers to LSU, still a reliable player. LSU fans really like CJ Daniels. I think he had great hands, great route running. His speed wasn't as good as it was in Liberty. Was that the competition, or was that more likely the fact that he had a heel injury that slowed him down? He's someone Miami really likes, and again is on campus now. We got almost 1,300, over 1,300, almost 1,400 in the show right now. So appreciate all you guys like and subscribe. But yeah, I've been talking for a while. Pete, what do you got to say here?
No, I mean, I was going to follow up with a question for you in terms of, like, obviously Miami doesn't have any commits here. We've seen a lot of questions here about the timetable Miami's working on. It seems like they're still being aggressive, but at the same time, you wonder when that first one pops.
Yeah, and I think you will see multiple commitments this week. By the way, appreciate that. Everyone sign up for Canes Connection. Help us land a tier. Again, Pete posted in the chat. That's canesconnection.com/CIS. Cian Veo's asking, appreciate your support. Other business that happened, any you feel good about in particular? I mean, I think Poyser makes a lot of sense. I was told he's a big target at safety before he visited, and that was his last visit. He was talking very positively about Miami. I have to imagine Miami's going to make him a priority. I know Miami, again, talking to them this week, has a lot of high hopes for Zaquan Patterson, Dylan Day. But you add a guy like this who's a redshirt freshman with multiple years of eligibility. Again, an SEC personnel guy said this guy was an All-America type, and could play at the SEC level, ACC level. So he's someone I think makes a lot of sense. He had very positive words about Miami after his visit, and I was told he is a priority guy.
Aaron Nolan, that news dropped recently that he was going to be transferring from Ohio State D, and he was a guy who the Miami went after in the process, obviously during his recruitment. But your thoughts on kind of kicking the tires there?
I don't see that one. I never got a big sense. By the way, we're almost to the 1,500 right now. Like and subscribe. Appreciate you. I never got a big sense that Aaron Nolan was a major target. He didn't really distinguish himself at Ohio State. Now, you do have expanded scholarships. So do you bring in an Aaron Nolan to compete if he wants to be down here? I could see that. But I don't know if that's something that you put a lot of investment in to getting an Aaron Nolan. You do have Judd Anderson and Emory Williams, and you're bringing in Luke Nickel. Again, you bring Aaron Nolan in to compete. There's a comparison to Dante Moore. I think Dante Moore probably a little further ahead than Aaron Nolan at this time. Remember, he had started games, had great physical stature. Nolan, a skinnier, smaller guy, and really, again, I don't think he was top 3 at OSU. So he's got a lot to prove. Doesn't mean he's not going to succeed. Joe Burrow was the 3rd-string quarterback at OSU. He did pretty good. So, I think you watch his career, but I'm not sure he's someone that you prioritize. But we'll see. If he's interested, you could bring him in. We have more scholarships now. If he's interested and it's the right number, he could come in and compete. But I don't see Aaron Nolan as someone that jumps off the page at the moment. I will follow up and see if I can confirm that. That's just based on my understanding to date. Johnny Lagoon asking, are we out on Rivers? That's Eric Rivers, the wide receiver from FIU. I don't believe we're out on Rivers.
No, and just something that I can add there. I don't think they're out on him either. I think that he's dealing with some sort of injury that he might miss spring, which obviously wouldn't be ideal, wherever he ends up landing. But no, I would say Miami is still in the picture there.
Yep. And again, you have CJ Daniels on campus and Eric Singleton, which I cannot emphasize that name enough. Eric Singleton has huge fans at the University of Miami. My personal sense of the player is that he could be as good as it gets in the conference and even the country. I mean, aside from the Jeremiah Smiths and Ryan Williams of the world, there's a guy that is a 10-3 speed player for you at that wide receiver position, over 190. I mean, as good as it gets there. So, question here on Kevin Dennis. Are we the favorite Caleb Odom? Caleb Odom, the 220-pound wide receiver / tight end from Carrollton, Georgia. Miami recruited him heavily out of high school. Signed with Alabama. Had about, I think only like 70 yards as a freshman, but played. He's somebody that I like him a lot. Is he a receiver? Is he a tight end? And Miami's recruited him with Coach Whittle, who's, of course, the tight ends coach. So he'll be visiting Miami on Friday. Ole Miss is the other school. He left Colorado without a commitment, like Kevin says. Ole Miss is the other school involved there. And Ole Miss just received a commitment from a tight end, Lucas Haas, who's a really, really big-time tight end from Arkansas, who ended up going to Ole Miss. Now, are they going to recruit Caleb Odom as a receiver to replace Trey Harris? That's another angle to keep an eye on there. But I would watch Ole Miss as a potential competition for Caleb Odom, but they just got a tight end. So Miami, they're pushing hard there. They like the player. He's a very, very talented guy visiting this weekend. There was a question about, let's see here. Sharing one mic is wild. No titty. This is we're kind of making up as we go here, doing it Temptation style, like the 1950s when they all had one mic and they do-offed. That's what we're doing. The 50s, 60s doo-wop style here with the one mic. This is the way the setup is. We'll be back at home base tomorrow, but we are here in the Miami Hurricane team store, over 1,700. This is the 24th annual Christmas spree. All these kids from the community. Today's the PAL. Got some more kids coming tomorrow. There to the Miami Hurricane team store. They get $95 from the team store in honor of Brian Bata. That's the 95, his number 95. So just an awesome event, 2-day event, 24th annual for Harry Rothwell. Now he's bringing that tradition over to the Miami Hurricane team store. You can shop at MiamiHTS.com. Get your Christmas shopping done at Miami's official retails provider, or you can do your shopping here in store. You don't get the $95 if you're not a kid in the community, but you do get a discount. Use Insight20 as your promo code, Insight20, for 20% off your first item. So some comparisons between Colby Young and Horton. I don't think that's a bad comparison as far as, again, the business of college football. You had Colby Young going to Georgia, which big-time program. He had a big role right away, but ultimately Miami was able to develop Isaiah Horton to take that role and actually surpass, I think, what Colby Young did. You see something similar. Miami has Chance Robinson on campus, but you also have JoJo Trader and Ike Carr, different types of players than Horton, but guys with size and with speed and quickness. Caleb Odom, who we were just talking about, if you put him more as a receiver, is more similar to an Isaiah Horton, 6'5", 230, more of an outside receiver if he plays there with some ability to make physical catches. So you have options, but of course Miami and Josh Moore, who Kevin Dennis mentioned, but Miami would like to keep Isaiah Horton. It's not a push-out situation. Miami really likes Isaiah Horton, and they continue to be in discussions literally as of a couple hours ago when I left campus. We got a question. Appreciate your support, Toby. Are we looking at anyone at defensive end or rolling with the youth? If so, what's the rotation looking like next year? Thanks, and go Canes. Pete, you can chime in on this one.
Yeah, I would expect them to add a guy on the defensive line, maybe someone we haven't heard the name yet that's out there necessarily. Someone who maybe can play inside, outside, with some versatility. But I do think they will be trusting a lot of the youth. At the same time, I expect them to bring in at least one D tackle and then probably a guy who's more of an edge guy.
Yeah, you have guys like Booker Pickett,
Cole
McConaughey, Elias Rudolph, Marquise Lightfoot. So you have some defensive ends there. Now, Akeem Messidor is going to be the question. Does he come back? He's been in college a long time. He might just be ready to go into the pros, but I'm not sure his projection is as high as maybe he'd like. So that's one to watch, because if you get Akeem Messidor back, you not only get somebody who started pretty much every game for you at defensive tackle this year, but someone who's more comfortable on the edge, as he showed, I guess, the last couple games he started at defensive end. So that's and then Johnny Lagoon mentioning Malik Bryant, another one on the outside as well. Of course, Bain. So you have guys on the outside. I think that it's a case-by-case basis, but right now, to me, the bigger priority is defensive tackle, and it's not so much getting a lot of guys. It's getting a premium guy that you can put next to a Justin Scott, next to Ahmad Moten. Josh Horton has improved as well. So you want those three young, homegrown guys with the body types you're looking for being accompanied by a proven guy that's experienced, physically mature, and you could trust from day one. I think Keyshawn Silver from Kentucky, who's visiting this weekend, fits that bill, a guy with size and speed.
Out of these guys that we're mentioning, not necessarily who you think Miami has the best chance to land, but like who, if you could pick one of them to just put on the team for next season, is it Silver? Is that the guy that you'd choose?
Of the defensive tackles,
of any of the guys that we just mentioned at the start of the show who have visited.
All right, so this will be we'll call this the Beacon Adjusters transfer portal prospect of the day. Shout out to Rick and the team at Beacon Adjusters. But I would say, to me, the prospect that so to me the prospect of the day has got to be Eric Singleton. He is the best player in the portal, along with John Mateer. He's in the rank number 2, according to 247, was ranked number 1 until Mateer jumped in. And I know people who believed he was the best, coaches who believed he was the best receiver in the ACC. Let's say outside receiver, you had Restrepo, but the best receiver in the ACC this year. Only had over 700 yards because the offense was more run-based. But this is a guy that could be an All-America type receiver, 10-3 speed. over 190 yards, experience in the ACC. This is a big-time player and somebody who can make a huge difference. He can run jet sweeps. He can do quite a lot of things. So that, again, this is somebody with just a ton of ability and somebody that Miami is putting a high premium on. He's going to be, you're competing with Ole Miss, you're competing with Texas, you're competing with big-time NIL schools that throw the football a lot. Miami's one of those. But again, Singleton on campus right now and is a major, major prospect, the Beacon Adjusters Player of the Week. So shout out to Beacon Adjusters. If you've been affected by Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton, talk to Beacon Adjusters. That's 954-466-4224, 954-466-4224. You could be in Florida, but you can also be anywhere across the country, all the way to California. They will help you with commercial claims, residential claims, business interruption claims, all kinds of claims. These are experienced professionals here to help you when you don't know who to turn to. They will lead in their time of need. They'll lead in your time of need with experienced claims professionals. They know exactly what they're doing. Again, it doesn't have to just be Florida. It could be anywhere in the country if you've been affected by a storm or any other insurance needs. Talk to Beacon Adjusters. It's beaconadjusters.com.
All right, let's see what we got here. We got 2,000 live, man. Shout out to everyone who's on. Like and subscribe to the channel as always. And we're live at Miami Hurricane Team Store.
Yeah, we're getting some. I see people posting about numbers.
And look, there's the man right there.
There's the man right there. There's Harry. Look at the legend himself.
That's what we're talking about today, guys, huh?
That's what we're talking about. We got 24 years of this event. Harry just moved it across the street to the Miami Hurricane Team Store, brand new. You see the facility. I mean, this was top of the line, all kinds of stuff. You're doing your Christmas shopping, come to the team store or MiamiHTS.com. Promo code INSIGHT20 for 20% off your first item. So yeah, someone's saying that Cam Ward got 900,000 and these $3.5 million numbers seem inflated. I'll say number one, first of all, that's a little low on Cam Ward. Also, remember, there's a new infusion of money coming in, not just from the NIL, but also from revenue sharing and the house settlement. So a whole new pot of money is coming into this. So you're going to see numbers go up considerably, but Miami's in that game. That's not something that Miami is outside of or it's going to hurt Miami in any way. It's just a different pot of money that's going to affect the numbers for the players. It's going to affect the players positively. Certainly the in-demand players like a John Mateer, like an Eric Singleton, some of these guys that we're talking about.
Any thoughts on the news of Mike Norvell giving back $4.5 million today, D, of his salary?
Yeah, that's a pay cut. If you're not the offensive coordinator, what's Mike Norvell good for, right? He's there to bring his offense. He's not a recruiter, so if he's getting paid $10 million to recruit, he's a bad recruiter. You could see why they made him take a pay cut. I like how they called it a generous act of giving back money, but yeah, I think it's just a pay cut. He got paid too much. He's not the offensive coordinator anymore, so he can't say he's some sort of offensive genius. He's a CEO who's a very poor recruiter and has been out-recruited by Miami pretty much every single year. So and not just Miami, other schools as well. So if you're not a recruiter and you're not the offensive coordinator, what are you really bringing to the table? He's a motivator of a team that's had, I guess, 3 losing seasons under his watch. 4. How many losing seasons has he had? 3. So I don't know what he brings to the table, and I'm not surprised he gave a pay cut. But I mean, quite frankly, it's not enough. Herb saying he had to pay his employer for the privilege to work for them. That's true. He's not giving back enough. He should be paying them just for the privilege.
So we got 2,100 live here, and again, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we got the quarterback debate going on here as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions I want to get to. I'll get to the quarterback here in a second. Toby's asking, do we see Blunt outside, inside, or both? I think both. Probably outside for now because of his size. You saw him play outside this year when he did play. He's still in that 265, 270 range, but he's young and he'll have a full offseason. Yeah, injury in spring kind of set him back a little bit, and still so young. He's been 17 the whole year, so I think you could project him to grow, but right now that's where he's at. Again, we got over 2,100 on. Like and subscribe to this podcast. Appreciate everybody joining us here. A lot of questions about Emory Williams. Anthony Berg saying Emory is going to ball out. A lot of people believe in Emory Williams. A lot of coaches believe in Emory Williams. You talk to the players, big name offensive players really support Emory. Now, again, I think it's one of those situations where the coaches think they can win games with them, but they're looking aggressively at the portal as well. So they're trying to improve the team at every position, and that is really no exception. But there is faith in Emery that he can get the job done, but that's not going to preclude them from recruiting other quarterbacks.
They're different quarterbacks. As Anthony Burke says, he doesn't see John Mateer in the same category as Cam. They're different quarterbacks, different skill sets. It wouldn't look exactly the same, but the running element that Mateer brings is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think the difference between Cam and Mateer probably better passer, Cam's a better passer, although Mateer did pass well. But, I mean, Mateer could run for 1,000 yards in this offense. So I think Mateer is more like a Jalen Hurts, whereas Cam is more of like an Aaron Rodgers type. I'd say that if you're comparing them. I'm not saying they're as good as these guys. I'm just saying if you're looking at the type of player, I'd say think Mateer is more of a Jalen Hurts, Cam Ward more of an Aaron Rodgers type. Mateer is the number one player in the portal. His coach said he thinks he's the best player in the country. This is the Washington State coach after he jumped in the portal. Now, to me, I think if you go to a team like Oklahoma where Jackson Arnold was struggling to throw for 60 yards, you're really not setting yourself up for success. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think that's objectively true. We'll see. Miami, the longer it goes, I think the better chance Miami has with Mateer, but certainly all the momentum right now is with Oklahoma.
And D, a lot of people who are just joining us now, weren't with our initial discussion about Isaiah Horton and the latest that we had on him. But one thing that I'll say here is some people were drawing comparisons to the Colby Young situation last year is I don't know how willing Miami was to engage with Colby Young after he said, look, I'm entering the portal and I have options elsewhere. I really believe that Horton's a guy that Miami does want to keep. Now, we'll see where the conversations lead to, right? You never know. But I think that's the biggest difference in this situation.
Yeah. Horton is a better player than Cam Ward, and I think Miami knows that Horton is a better player than – I think Cam Ward, I'm sorry, Colby Young. Horton is a better player than Colby Young. I think Miami knows Horton's a better player than Colby Young, and they're going to treat him that way. But at the same time, you can't do things that are going to hurt your team just for one player. There's a big balance here with what you're doing. It's a big roster. There's a lot of positions that need help, and you have to pick your battles. It's an interesting world here. It's very much similar to the NFL. The NFL, you don't, sometimes you lose players you like because of finances, right? Sometimes you bring those players back after a negotiation. So I think this is very much like an NFL situation. You're there. The other school I'd watch for Horton is Alabama. I think Alabama's got a lot of love for the player. Isaiah Horton, that's the school that I'm looking at. I believe Ty Simpson is a high school teammate of Horton. But as of now, again, I was on campus today. I saw Isaiah Horton and his family were there. I saw Eric Singleton there. So a lot of moves happening right now. There's a lot of discussion of the Mateer no contact tag. That's when you jump in the portal and you put in a no contact tab. That means you're basically just a done deal for another school. Williams Nwaneri, he ended up jumping in with a no contact, going straight to Nebraska. I don't believe Mateer is in that same boat. I think Mateer, from what I understand, is able to be contacted, even though Oklahoma is the favorite. Mateer can be contacted, and Miami believes they're still in the mix there. Again, not putting all their eggs in this basket. Certainly, I think Oklahoma has momentum, but Miami, has the ability to talk to Mateer, and I know Cam Ward's been talking to Mateer for a while. That's been reported widely. So, Kane's Cat T305 asking what happened with the UCF cornerback Chasen Johnson. I was told maybe a few days ago that Chasen Johnson wasn't as much of a target as had been reported, and was actually, and then they were more focused on other guys. You see Ethan O'Connor from West Washington State. You see Emmanuel Carnley from Arizona. These are similar players, freshman corners that played a lot as freshmen and have multiple years of eligibility, longer guys, similar to Chasen Johnson, but higher on the board with the Miami Hurricanes. So both those guys visited this weekend. Chasen Johnson was not a target after that initial reporting and ended up committing to SMU, I believe, today or yesterday. So he's headed to SMU. Question on Charles Brantley from Michigan State. I believe he's from Venice, Florida, originally from Florida, but he's not I've not heard his name as a target. So we'll find out where he's at. Question on CJ Daniels, Ole Miss, Miami battle. Again, you're looking at CJ Daniels, Miami, Ole Miss names you're hearing. Odom, Miami, Ole Miss names you're hearing. Singleton, Miami and Ole Miss are names you're hearing. So
one of these schools can't get all of them. So, I mean, you would have to think those battles will kind of go one way or another there.
Yeah, Kevin Dennis is saying Gabby from 247 named the guy from South Alabama, not a good sign. That guy's a good player from what I understand. He'll be a highly sought-after player in the portal, Scruggs, and he's a nickel, which Miami needs a nickel, and that is what Scruggs plays.
South Alabama gets guys drafted. They've had Jalen Tolbert being one of them recently. They had a corner from there a couple years ago as well that went pretty highly in the draft. So South Alabama there's a lot of talent in that program. They usually have one or two guys a year that'll get drafted.
Yep. So, and Miami, I think getting a nickel is a great idea in general, a pure nickel, not just another corner. By the way, over 2,400 on this show. Appreciate everybody joining. Like and subscribe to this show. We are on every single day giving you the latest from the portal and from recruiting. This is an unusual show because we're here at the Miami Hurricane team store for the Christmas spree. Usually we're in the studio with two mics. We're getting a little too close for comfort here. But wanted to shout out this great event. Again, a lot of local kids from the PAL getting $95 in honor of Brian Pata, number 95, the late great Brian Pata, to purchase items here. I saw Coach Artiago is here. Some camp players, I saw Ryan Mack here. So there's a lot of action here. This is a fun event. The cheerleaders are out here. You see the kids. And if you just want to shop here and you're not a local kid, you still get a discount. Promo code INSIGHT20, 90% off in store and on MiamiHTS.com. Got some comments here about for Chris Stephen Aveo. Going to appreciate you. If it's just materially produced, pursue other quarterbacks. I believe we could pursue other quarterbacks. Mentioned Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza is a guy Miami likes and thinks is a good player. I don't think the portal's done. I think you're going to see more names enter the portal, and Miami will be aggressively monitoring all of them. Question on DTs, like I mentioned, Keyshawn Silver visited this weekend. Big guy, former 5-star from North Carolina, transferred to Kentucky, and now is back in the portal. A solid player, maybe not the first round guy that you envision coming out of high school, but a big-bodied, experienced player in the SEC who has some athletic ability and some meat left on the bone as far as their projection. Question here, someone saying that Mendoza and Emery are the same. The only difference is Mendoza's gotten his chance. Certainly, that is a difference, is that you know what you're getting with Mendoza. You got film on him, but I think Mendoza, his athleticism is a little underrated. He's a highly sought-after guy in the portal. A lot of people like Mendoza. And also, Johnny Blue's mentioning, don't forget about Blay from Louisiana Tech. Oh, you heard that's a tough battle?
I heard that. I mean, listen, I'm not saying they can't do it, but that's a big boy battle in the portal right now. I don't think they're necessarily too confident on that one right now.
Yeah, no, Penn State's involved. That's where he's from, he's from Philadelphia. So those battles are tough. Ralph saying NIL killed college. I think this play. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the 12-team playoff in general, but I think this has been a pretty exciting season. A lot of parity. Which is what you want to see after so many years of just a couple teams dominating and hoarding 5-star recruits. Now you're seeing Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. You're seeing Georgia losing and being in battles with teams that, they didn't expect to be in battles against. So to me, it's gotten more interesting just because of the parity factor, which the NIL is a big part of. Question, any smoke on Travis Shaw? That's not a name I've heard. Kind of like Keyshawn Silver, former 5-star D tackle from North Carolina. Keyshawn Silver, originally from North Carolina, is transferred to Kentucky. I've not heard smoke on Travis Shaw. All I've heard is that they want a big-time defensive tackle to go along with Justin Scott, Ahmad Moten, and Josh Horton, homegrown players.
All right, so it's about 5:40 here, D. I know you got something to get to at 6 as well.
But any last questions? Get them in. I'm checking my phone to see what the latest. Make sure I'm not missing anything new
sure,
here.
Even though I'm sure the chat would let us know if we missed anything. So
we got DJU just declared for the draft in case anybody's NFL team is looking for a dynamic passer. DJU has entered the draft, just announced. I guess cross him off the list as a potential portal guy. Question about Dawson and Guidry. my latest view is that I think changes on defense, not so many changes on offense. That's as vague as I can be, but I think I do expect changes on defense. I would confidently believe there would be changes on defense. We'll see. And offense, I've heard that's going to be stable for now. They don't believe something's imminent, but you never know when a new job opens up. Like Wake Forest just opened up. I don't know. I have no idea how that impacts Dawson, but that's the kind of thing that happens unexpectedly and then leads to a chain reaction. So because then what happens if that spot gets filled by somebody who leaves another job? So it's hard to predict coaching changes in that way. I would say as of right now, as we sit, I don't expect changes on offense. I do expect changes on defense, but these things change very fast. Who's going to the Pop-Tarts Bowl?
I think we're both going.
We'll both be there. I know there's a question about whether Xavier Restrepo will be there. That will be something to watch because Xavier Restrepo reported that he's still thinking about potentially sitting out that game. Cam Ward continues to be emphatic that he will play in that game. So, look, 2,500. Appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe to the show. Any last questions, get them in. Otherwise, we'll be here for the shopping spree in the Miami Hurricane team store. I'll probably get myself a new polo. Someone told me this was too tight, so I got to get a bigger one.
Appreciate everyone who's on here live with us today. Go Canes.
Go Canes.